One of the biggest shocks you can experience as a business owner is when one of your best tradespeople walks into the office and tells you they're moving on. It can come as a complete shock. What happened? You thought everything was fine. They never complained. They always did good work. Never any problems. In fact, if you had to guess the next person that might leave, they're probably the one you'd least expect. But here's the reality. Good tradies don't quit suddenly. The resignation might be sudden, but the decision isn't. They've already thought about it, discussed it with their partner. They've already looked at other opportunities. By the time they tell you, the decision is irreversible. But if you know what to look for, there are usually warning signs long before they hand in their notice. Hey, I'm Dean Mance, and over more than 30 years running an electrical contracting crew, I've seen plenty of good workers leave my own business and other businesses as well. They usually had a good reason. Sometimes the opportunities they had were too good to refuse. And I'm sure that some never disclosed the real reason they left. Sometimes it was half expected, but sometimes it was a complete and total surprise. When it was a surprise to me, I had no idea that the team member was unhappy, no idea they were looking elsewhere. The truth is that good workers often suffer in silence, and by the time they tell you they're leaving, it's too late to fix the problem. So today I want to share some of the silent signs that your best workers may be preparing to leave your business. The first sign is that they stop offering ideas. Good employees usually care about improving things. They'll suggest better systems. They'll point out problems and come up with solutions. But when someone starts disengaging, they often don't bother. They stop trying to improve the business systems because mentally they're no longer invested in its future. And when a worker who used to contribute ideas suddenly becomes silent, you should pay attention. The second sign is they become emotionally detached. They still show up and do their work. They still perform reasonably well, but something's changed. They're not as excited and engaged in team discussions. They're physically present, but mentally checked out. And this can be hard for bosses to spot because the employee is still doing well enough. The change might only be small. An example of this happened to me many years ago. I hired a new worker and he quickly displayed leadership qualities and took on more responsibility, and he was a great asset to the business. A few months later, I hired another new guy who displayed similar qualities, and I thought, wow, this is great. Look at these two guys go, doing such great work to help the business progress. What I didn't realise is the first guy felt his position was threatened by the new arrival because I had failed to create any formal structure of positions or job titles for these team members. They didn't know exactly who was in charge of what and who had responsibility for what areas. I didn't realise they were actually competing with each other. Well, not until the first guy handed in his resignation. It was then that I also realised that I'd failed to regularly show my appreciation to this valuable team member. I hadn't publicly and privately acknowledged enough of the great contribution he was making, so no wonder he felt he wasn't being appreciated. It was my mistake. It cost me a very valuable team member, and I felt bad for being so clueless. The third sign is they can stop caring about their future in the business. When a worker sees a future with you, they ask questions. They want to learn new skills and take on more responsibilities. They talk about upcoming projects. But when they're considering leaving, those conversations disappear. They're not interested in building a future with you because they're already imagining a future somewhere else. The fourth sign is increased frustration over small issues. Things they've tolerated for years suddenly seem to annoy them more. Promises not kept, chaotic planning, broken equipment, last-minute changes. The issue usually isn't the problem itself. The issue is that their patience has run out. What was once a minor irritation now feels like another reason to leave. And the fifth sign is perhaps the most dangerous of all. They stop complaining. Most bosses think complaints are a problem. In reality, complaints often mean that the worker still cares. They still believe things can improve. The real danger comes when they stop raising concerns altogether. It means they've given up trying to make things better. A big mistake that I see business owners make is confusing silence with satisfaction. Just because a team member is not complaining doesn't mean they're happy. Here's the lesson. Good workers don't just wake up one morning and decide to quit. Most resignations are the result of months of frustration and disappointment or disengagement. The problem is you might only discover those issues when that resignation letter hits your desk. Running a trades business is hard. There are so many things you have to do. getting new jobs, sending out quotes and invoices, dealing with clients, getting paid. It's more than a full-time job, and you've also got to be a competent leader and nurse your team members through all the troubles in their lives as well as the work. When a good team member resigns, it might be a shock, but hopefully some good can come of it. If you're lucky, they'll tell you the truth about why they're leaving, and that at least gives you the opportunity to avoid making the same mistake in the future. If you want to find out this truth before they hand in their resignation, there are some things you can do. The 5 signs we just talked about, they're often very subtle and you have to be watching closely to notice them. It's much easier to have regular conversations with your team members to head off problems before they become serious issues. In my experience, private monthly one-on-one discussions and weekly team meetings are the best ways to do it. Ask questions. Find out what's frustrating everyone. Find out what's working and what isn't. Encourage feedback, criticism and suggestions, but don't just listen to them and do nothing. Once you know your team's frustrations, you need to take action to address the issues. Otherwise, the first time you learn there's a problem, it will be when your best worker resigns, and that's far too late. Good tradespeople stay in businesses where they're listened to, where they feel respected and where their efforts are acknowledged and appreciated. If that type of culture doesn't exist in your business, then your most valuable tradies could be quietly planning their exit while you don't even notice. What do you think? Does this fit with your own experience? Let me know in the comments. And if you want me to answer a question about running a team of tradies in a contracting business, send me an email using the link in the description. As always, thank you for listening.